What is up, everyone? It's Gage here. Welcome to you, Buck Dad. And today we're going to discuss the Buccaneers versus Eagles Monday night. But before we get there, we got to get a little juiced up because I know you guys are after this week-free matchup on Sunday. Let's go with the Broncos because let me tell you something. I was really happy to see that score. I was surprised. It's like a bad score. I had to double check if that's correct. 70-20. After all Sean Payton talked about, this coaching staff was pretty much, he said they sucked. But yet he's doing a worse job than Nathan Hackett did in Denver.
Yeah, that was an utter disgrace and a total embarrassment by the Denver Broncos. In my lifetime, and I've been watching football a long time, I don't recall a team ever getting beat as badly as Denver did this afternoon in Miami. Vance Joseph is the defensive coordinator. He was the head coach in Denver a few years prior. He ought to be embarrassed to even walk on the plane for the plane ride home. He ought to walk back to Denver after that performance. Now, I understand the Broncos had a lot of injuries on the defense. They were beat up in the secondary and, linebackers, defensive line, you name it. But these are NFL players. They're collecting a paycheck. They need to show up and give a better effort. And I just couldn't believe it as I watched that game. And it didn't matter who the Dolphins put in. Second string, third string, let's get the practice squad some time. It didn't matter. Denver had no answers and just couldn't stop the Dolphins' offense. 727 yards of offense. When's the last time you saw an NFL team put up those kind of numbers?
I actually did. I was fact checking it. Since 1966, the Washington Redskins back then. That's what they were called. As we all know, it was they had 72 to. It was very low score from the Giants. They are the ones that hold the most points in history, and the Dolphins would kick a field goal. They would have had the most points in NFL history. I think they felt kind of bad. They're like, okay, we won't embarrass them that much, but
Yeah, and that was a that was a classy move by the Dolphins head coach because he could have gone for it, could have kicked the field goal and had the record, but he showed some class and took a knee and turned the ball over on downs to Denver, and then the Broncos.
Oh yeah, he could have got that first down. There is they couldn't stop him.
Yeah,
and honestly, it kind of shows you when you Sean Payton was coming in very arrogant, like, oh, we're gonna be in the playoff team. I got Russell Wilson. It shows you, and I've never been a big fan of Sean Payton. I would compare him to kind of John Gruden's type of coaching level. And people were like, oh, it was Drew Brees. Sean Payton kept the team together to the Saints. No, he wasn't. I've said this to a couple people. Sean Payton is as great as people think he is. He had the top 10 best quarterback in NFL history. Drew Brees, no one gives enough credit how good he was. And this guy should have had 3 Super Bowl rings, but Sean Payton took a lot of his weapons. He never really gave Drew Brees a good chance, And it shows, he got exposed when he went to Denver. And there's no excuse for him. He he has Russell Wilson. He has weapons on offense. And I'm saying it comes down to coaching now. The defense coordinator, obviously, there's a reason why he got quickly fired as a head coach. And Sean Payton is now being exposed as a head coach. So the Denver Broncos, I think now you have to put them right next to the Bears and those teams. I think they had a worse performance than the Giants did against the Giants did with the Cowboys. And they didn't score.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was the worst performance and will probably go down as the worst performance ever in an NFL game, in years to come. And a lot of times when you lose that badly, it can kind of set the tone for the rest of the season. And I heard Sean Payton's post-game press conference, and he was adamant that, they're gonna watch the tape and they're gonna look at their inefficiencies and they're going to try to improve. But come Wednesday, they got to get up off the mat and get ready for the game, next weekend. So there's no time to sit down, hang your head, and feel sorry for yourself. They got another opponent coming up, next week. So they got to get back. Their heads got to get back into the game pretty quickly.
And that's the standard response. Like if I'm Sean Payton, I'm like something has to change, man. Like obviously it reflects. Someone scores 70 points on you, and yeah, like that is something has to change. Someone's getting fired. Like if I'm Sean Payton, I am looking at everything in that defense. I'd be having that very heated conversation with the defensive coordinator. I'm like, how did you let this happen? Because it's not like Denver is not, they don't have a weak defense. They don't have the best defense, but they're not the worst team in the NFL as far as defensive ranking. I would put them now, but there's no excuse for what happened with them. You know, there's Denver Broncos. I think they're not a playoff team. They could have been. You know, they had the potential before the start of the season, but now it's kind of that sets the tone, like you said, for the rest of the season. I don't. They got to look at more than tape. You know, what I mean, you can look at tape about 1,000 times, but there's going to have some be internal changes, or that's going to be repeat. It's
Right.
not 70 points, but it's gonna be the same result over and over again if they don't do some internal changes.
Yeah, and I'll give you the flip side of that coin is the Cleveland Browns. They've been an up and down franchise, very inconsistent outside of the 2018-19 season. You know, with Baker Mayfield, the year maybe that was 2020, took them to the playoffs against Pittsburgh, and he won in Pittsburgh. But this year, the Browns hired Jim Schwartz as their defensive coordinator. Now, Schwartz has been a head coach before, but he's more known for his work as a defensive coordinator. Mediocre head coach at best, but a very good defensive coordinator. In the opener against Cincinnati, the Browns allowed 125 yards of offense the whole game. They went to Pittsburgh, kind of got beat up a little bit, lost 26-22, but didn't give up a ton of yards. And today they held the Tennessee Titans to 96 yards of offense the whole game. And tonight, the Browns are number one in total defense, giving up just 163 yards a game after 3 games with their 2-1 record. So that just goes to show you the importance of picking a good defensive coordinator and getting your system down to the players, making sure that they understand it and they can execute it properly, because they're making things happen in Cleveland, and here in Denver, it's just not working out so far.
And Deshaun Watson play, I think, is very comparable to Russell Wilson. Both had really good years, but when they went to their new teams, they have not done much. Deshaun
Well,
Watson.
don't forget though too. Don't forget Watson sat out a couple of years while his took care of some legal problems. But the thing with Watson, it's like a pitcher that doesn't pitch for 2 years in Major League Baseball. Watson's lost a bit of his fastball. He doesn't have the explosive runs that he used to have. He's just not the playmaking quarterback that we saw with Houston so far. Now, we still have, a ton of games yet to go this season, but we had a little sampling at the end of last season. We've had 3 games this season, and I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the old Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson does not look like the same player, and this is possible. Someone else mentioned, one of the fans, they're like, maybe it's his guilt. During a whole speculation and controversies, Deshaun Watson, he took the biggest deal in NFL history, which affects that team majorly. Instead of going to a team that he could have redeemed himself and was more of a team player, instead he went for the money, instead of being humble. Like you look at when he put on Instagram or whatever that he was going to sign Cleveland Browns, in the background he had a Falcons jersey, so he was looking at going to the Falcons, to his hometown team, because he could have faced his head on. I think though, because obviously being out, it does affect you. Like it takes you a minute to go back, but it shouldn't affect you this much. So it could be a guilty conscience as well, and he doesn't feel like he deserves being a starter quarterback for the Cleveland Browns.
Well, the other thing too is, he signed that big contract, and if he doesn't work out, the Browns are in a world of hurt because they mortgaged a lot of their future to sign Deshaun Watson and to acquire Deshaun Watson. But he's got that money now, and that is 100% guaranteed. One of the few, maybe the only NFL contract that's 100% guaranteed. And in other sports, baseball, basketball, hockey, doesn't matter. Once you get that money, a lot of times the performance drops for whatever reason. They're not the same player they were before they signed that big contract. Why that is, I don't know. I'm not a sports psychologist, but that just seems to be the trend. You work hard to get yourself in a position to earn that big contract. Once you sign that big contract, you get paid. You never ever can play or earn up to the potential of that contract, because whatever it is, effort, practice, caring, I don't know, but it usually does not work out the way you want it to work out if you're a fan of the team that has the player with that big contract.
Yeah, and the only thing that kind of links up why does this work out, I think they get comfortable. They got the contract, they're feeling good, they're solidifying their position. And then they kind of lose their self. They lose the, I think, that drive. Like, hey, I'm going to get that contract. I'm going to get that money, so I'm going to work even harder. And that's not the case for everyone. Like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, those guys, I could see them still like having that mindset. Like, I still got to prove myself each week. But there's something going on when someone gets paid the big money. They lose, like Daniel Jones. Now, I'm not saying he was good. They're great before, but he's definitely declined a lot since that contract. Same with Joe Burrow. He didn't play very good his first 2 weeks. So,
well, Burrow has an injury. That's totally different matter. He's not 100% healthy. So until he's 100% healthy, I mean, it's not fair to really, evaluate him. He may not even play tomorrow night against the Rams.
I wouldn't. I don't think he will.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look at the injury in training camp. I don't think he was even ready to go with week 1. I think they should have plugged him.
Yeah.
And that's another.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Baker Mayfield situation. I say coaches need to sit out their players. Like, these are grown men, but at the same time, you got to look out for your team and sit them out. Sit those guys out, because sometimes they don't always think the long term wise. And Joe Burrow could have seriously. I don't think it got seriously aggravated, but it definitely got close to that point, and it could end his career if you let him play. Like Baker Mayfield could have ended his career if he would have got. It kind of did a little bit, actually. When he wasn't even healthy last season, I think he was still recovering from his torn labrum. I think coaches need to sit out their players when they get that kind of injuries, like Mike Tomlin did with his players. I think coaches need to kind of take control. And like, if this injury, I can't let you play.
Mm-hmm. Right. And as a head coach, it's somewhat, your responsibility to look out for the health and welfare, of your players. I know Tomlin has gone to different players at times on his Pittsburgh teams and said, listen, you might feel you can play. You're not 100% healthy. If you play, you are jeopardizing the rest of your career, and you could be pissing away millions of dollars. I can't let you play. As your head coach, I'm not going to let you play because I want you to be healthy and I want you to have a long career. Now that's coaching, and that's looking out for your players.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like coaches kind of I think sometimes they be more their friend than their their head coach, their leader. Like you got to have a certain respect. You obviously have respect to each other, but you gotta look out for each other. That's the team. That needs to be the mindset, I think. And the coach, like even the Bengals head coach, he should have sat Joe Burrow out. Like, man, we're not going to risk this. Like, we want you to get healthy, but I can't play you. Mm-hmm. And Joe Burrow, the quarterbacks don't have control of that, because ultimately it's up to the head coach. And so the quarterback, that player has to take responsibility, but it ultimately falls on the head coach. So these coaches when they have injuries like this, they need to sit them out.
Mm-hmm.
Like even with the Dolphins. Yeah. And it's been kind of a trend the last, like even last season. Tuluga, he got a serious concussion. He was not playing the same. They should. Mike McDaniel should set him out. So I think coaches should need to take more control of their players. Mm-hmm. Like, not full control, but at least looking out for them. Like, we can't play you, man. We're not going to risk that, and it affects not just you but the whole team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that'll be one for the record books today, 70-20. Big win for the Dolphins. They're one of only three unbeaten teams now, I believe. They're 3-0. And tomorrow night at Raymond James, it's the Bucks and the Eagles, and the Buccaneers have a chance to be one of the three unbeaten teams after week 3. So it's going to be really exciting to see this matchup. Eagles are defending NFC champions. The Buccaneers are up and coming. They were not on anyone's radar nationally to even be in this spot after 2 weeks. Baker Mayfield was an afterthought. Everybody at the Eagles penciled in, for another championship run. And if you look at the numbers, it's just been the opposite. The Buccaneers, when you break it down in some of the categories, are performing a lot better than the Eagles are so far after these first 2 games.
It's and with this game coming up, I'm 50-50 because this Eagles team it's no joke. They were Super Bowl last year. They basically they got the Georgia defense.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they're tough, man. Like they have a really tough front line. You got they got that Georgia defensive tackle, and they got the big man up front. That's been there for a long time, Cox. And he's no joke, man. And that whole defense, they got linebackers, guys that are kind of surprising that are playing up to a high level.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only do you have that defense, you got Jalen Hurts on the other side, and he's got AJ
Right.
Brown and Devontae Smith, who he played with in college. So, this is going to be a really tough team. And the Buccaneers, my main concern, actually, I was talking to Evan Winters about this. It's going to be that front offensive line because they have struggled. Baker Mayfield last week should have got sacked like 4 to 5 times. He had to get out of the pocket. He kind of had to evade a couple of sacks. So that front line really needs to step up because they've been playing very underwhelmed. It has not been up to the standard that they were expecting. And he's been struggling a lot as well.
Well, I have Dave Canales as one of the keys to this game. And I have him as one of the keys to the game because he's going to have to step outside the box. And he's going to have to really dial up some interesting play calls to keep this Eagles defense off balance. The Eagles have the number 1 run defense in the league. They're giving up just 52 yards a game. The Buccaneers are second, giving up 54 yards a game. So Rachaad White may have a very tough time getting it going tomorrow night against the Eagles defense. So Canales is going to have be very imaginative with his play calling. Mike Evans is going to have a big game. Chris Godwin's going to have a big game. And I look for some of the rookies and free agents, some of the young studs, Trey Palmer, Devin Tompkins, Raheem Jarrett to also step up and have big games. The Eagles defense is giving up 378 yards a game. 326 of that is through the air. So you can move the ball down the field and you can score some points on this Eagles defense, but it's going to have to be through the air. I don't think you're going to have a lot of success running the ball.
I would agree with that. Like Rachaad White, I say he's a great upcoming player, but right now he's having struggles as a starter. Because mostly I would to get on the offensive line has not been great. They are very young offensive line. They're still working through their struggles and their weak points. And I think 2 players that are going to have to really step up. I think it's going to be Mike Evans or Chris Godwin because they're going to be the main targets of Baker Mayfield. Mm-hmm. And Baker, I'm going to have to. I hate to say this, but he's going to have to. He's going to have to get out of the pocket probably frequently because the offensive line, I don't see him holding up very well against that defensive line. So Baker Mayfield, now he's going to have to. He's going to have to show everyone why he was the number 1 pick and use that special ability he has with his legs.
And that's where Dave Canales comes in. We've seen some of the, play calling and some of the plays he comes up with. The end around to Devin Tompkins and plays like that. And it's going to take, some of those kind of plays. A lot of rollouts, a lot of movement to keep that Eagles defense off balance. But thing about Baker Mayfield is he is right now top 10 quarterback in this league. Jalen Hurts, according to the rankings, is number 26. Mayfield has 3 touchdown passes. He has not turned the ball over, and he has just been sacked 1 time. Now, you can just sit here and say, well, shoulda, woulda, coulda. He should have been sacked 4 times. It should have been sacked 3 times in this game. Okay, those don't go on the stat sheet. Almost sacks don't count. He's been sacked 1 time. So the offensive line, when you look at it, has done what they are supposed to do. They have protected Baker, not allowed him to get hit a lot, turn the ball over, and that's helped the Buccaneers have this early season success in part.
And you're correct. It doesn't go on the stat sheet, but you look at how the sacks almost happened. They do not look pretty. Like Baker Mayfield, man, if Baker Mayfield didn't make that, he didn't evade the sacks like he did. Like he's the plays he's able to make it's insane. He's looking like Patrick Mahomes out there. That offensive line, like you look back and those moments when he did almost get sacked, they're pretty rough. Like, and I think it's because they have a young offensive line. Luke Gedeke definitely been giving up some penalties. I think it's a lot. I think they have a lot of room to work with, learning wise, with the offensive line. But it's only 2 weeks. It's only 2 weeks in, and this game, Baker Mayfield, this is the game he's really going to have to show who he is. Like, is he a star player? I think he's a really good player, but I can't put him as a star quarterback right now because he hasn't been that for a long time since Cleveland Brown in 2020. So Baker Mayfield, he's going to have to really have to step up the Eagles because this is a crucial game. Because if the Bucs win this game, no one's going to look down the Bucs anymore because they can't. This is a Super Bowl. This is a contender for a Super Bowl. The Eagles are easily, Jalen Hurts in that defense. And with how the NFC South looks, the Buccaneers would be number 1 in the division. And you had to say it doesn't look like they'll be knocked down too far. With how the Saints are looking, Derek Carr is looking average at best. And the Falcons, they're the Falcons, and the Panthers have a lot of growing pains with Bryce Young.
Yeah. Yeah, but Baker Mayfield, to your point, he is going to have to step up his game. And I agree with you. He has played exceptionally well so far, but he's going to have to take, I think, his game to another level, if the Bucs are to win. Another key player to keep your eye on is Vita Vea. Okay, Vea is quickly becoming one of the best defensive tackles in the league. And he has had 2 phenomenal games. And that whole Buccaneer defensive line against that Philly offensive line is going to be key to slowing down DeAndre Swift, Jalen Hurts, Kenneth Gainwell, and that Eagles running game. It's going to have to start with that defensive line. And I think that that's a good matchup for the Bucs. Their defensive line against the Eagles offensive line. Eagles offensive line is not quite what it was last year or a few years ago when there was no question they had one of the better offensive lines in the league. So I think this is an opportunity. The Buccaneers, need to take. Vita Vea's got to really have a good game tomorrow night and try to slow down that Eagles running game with Swift and Hurts.
And this is I think the defense I have a good feeling about because let's rewind 2 weeks ago. The Vikings aren't playing. They're 0-3, so it's a rough record. But how they're playing is impressive. Kirk Cousins is looking like he's playing like a top 5 player. And this defense, they were able to hold them off to win that game. And the Vikings offense is impressive. That game, they actually did. The last 2 weeks they've been fumbling the ball, but the Vikings that week 1, that was a tight game. And we were able to hold off I'd say a top 5 offense. Their record doesn't reflect that, but you look at T.J. Hockenson, Justin Jefferson, the rookie, Jordan Addison, who's been killing it since he's came in the league. You got to look at that, and the Eagles actually almost lost to the Vikings. So I think if we can play it to that, the defense can play a level of that, and I think they've only gotten better since then. I think we got a legitimate chance to beat the Eagles, and this is going to be a statement game for the Bucs because if they beat the Eagles here, that is a Super Bowl contender. That's a statement. You can't look down the Bucs anymore because there's only a few teams that are better than the Eagles in the NFC.
Yeah, I agree. This is a big statement game, and the defense, I think, is like they've done the first two games, is really going to have to play well and maybe kind of carry the offense a little bit in this game. The Buccaneers secondary is also going to be under the gun a little bit, trying to cover Small and AJ Brown. Carlton Davis, it's questionable, whether he's going to play. As far as I know, everyone else in that secondary will play. Kalijah Cansey is going to be out for the game. Devin White is questionable. But, Davis and Dean, they're always talking about them being, top 10 corners in the league, top 5, secondaries. Well, this is your chance to prove it. Okay. You've got 2 of the better receivers in the game coming into your building, and this is your chance to shine, your chance to make a statement to the nation on Monday Night Football. So let's make it happen.
Yeah, and this is Baker Mayfield's first primetime game as a Buck, and he's done it before, but this is a different Baker Mayfield and a different team that he's on. I think personally the best team he's been on, because Cleveland back then they had Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, but they're heading towards the end of the prime, so it wasn't. He didn't get receivers like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and even White's looking like he's looking like an upcoming star player.
Yeah.
He just needs to get a little bit better protection. I think he'll start breaking out a little bit more. But I think Baker Mayfield, it's early, but I think he could really be the guy for the Bucs. If he keeps playing, especially against a team like the Eagles, I have a really good feeling that the Bucs could win the division. And with the Saints the Saints were the main contenders I was worried about, but after seeing how Derek Carr's playing, they don't really concern me as much.
Well, Derek Carr suffered an injury today, and he's going to miss some time. So next week, the Bucs go to New Orleans to play the Saints, and our good pal Jameis Winston could be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, because I'm not sure that Derek Carr is going to be ready to go next week. So if the Saints have to go with Winston as their quarterback for a couple of games here, early October, that could really, set the tone for the rankings in the division.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big game, and especially it's going to be really big if I say it's the way it's going to go. If we lose the tight game against the Eagles, it's going to be crucial. Mm-hmm. I believe. And that's going to be a kind of game. Baker Mayfield versus Jameis Winston. I'm going against an old friend for the Buccaneers. Yes. Hopefully he's the same Jameis that threw more interceptions than touchdowns.
Yeah. So, well, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So, let's hope it's the old Winston that, the Bucs may see next week. But, before then, though, we've got the matchup, with the Eagles. So what is your pick? Who do you see winning this game, and what's final score?
Honestly, it's really tough. But seeing how Baker it's a big concern with Baker was even with Cleveland Browns, he used to fumble the ball a lot. He used to turn over the ball quite frequently. And but so far this season, he's been playing as a top 10 quarterback. So I think it's going to be a really tight game. And I think if Baker Mayfield plays the way I think he will, I think it's going to be the Bucs, as long as the defense steps up. So I predict, I'm going to say 34-31.
Wow, you got a lot of points being scored. So much for that defense, huh?
Yeah, Carlton Davis has been kind of disappointing in my opinion. So I just think whatever he's in or out, I just think it's going to be that defense is going to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, well, the other thing is Davis is always hurt. I mean, every time you turn around, he can't play in a big game, can't play in a big spot. Just always hurt.
And when he does play, he gives up a lot of points.
Yeah. I'm with you as well. I think it's a tight game. It's going to be back and forth, kind of like two heavyweights going at it. It's going to be a good 12-round bout. A lot of blows are going to be landed. And at the end of the night, I think the Eagles are going to win this one, probably by a couple of points. I say 24-21. I think they make just a couple of more plays than the Bucs do, and that'll be the difference in the game. Yeah, they're the defending NFC champions. They're trying to get their game back on track. They want to get back to the Super Bowl, get a chance to win it. This is a primetime game, national TV, a chance for them to show the nation that, hey, Eagles are back. And then, not that the Bucs are going to play poorly or embarrass themselves. I just think that at the end of the day, the Eagles are going to just have a couple more plays in them than the Bucs are, and 24-21's final. I hope I'm wrong, because Raymond James is going to be full of green jerseys, and I can't stand the Eagle fans. The Philly fans are the most obnoxious fans I have ever met in my life. They have no class whatsoever. They are, they're the scum of the earth, in my opinion. So it's going to be a rough night for me at the stadium, having to sit and endure, with all those Neanderthals. But a couple of beers and I'll be fine.
Yeah, man, I seriously, like, the Eagles fans are literally the worst fan base in the whole league. Like,
100%.
Hands down, the worst fans I've ever met. There's only been very, very few good Eagles fans I've met. Like the one kid, Gino, from the Twitter. He's a big Eagles fan. He has been having a lot of surgeries and everything like that. He's like he's a very few fans that are a good Eagles fan. But it's very rare. I haven't really met too many good ones. But the Eagles, I think they have a really good chance to win. But I don't know. I feel like the Bucs somehow can win this. That Ronde Barber's in the Ring of Honor. Right. Baker Mayfield gives me a lot of hope. Yeah, if we had any other quarterback, I wouldn't feel so confident. I would give easily the Eagles a win. But Baker Mayfield, he has something special that you don't see in many quarterbacks. Like, I would compare it almost to like a Philip Rivers. Like, he has that leadership and that gritty. Like, he's going to do whatever it takes to win, no matter what. I think he's a little bit better than Philip Rivers, because Philip Rivers turned over the bar like a lot. He was a turnover machine when it came to big primetime games. So I think I feel like Baker. It's going to be a legendary game between Baker Mayfield and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and let's hope that Mayfield does not end up like Philip Rivers, losing every big game that he plays in and never really making it to a Super Bowl or winning a Super Bowl. Let's hope that's not the case.
No,
with Baker's career. But I think he'll perform well. I think the whole team will play well. Like I said, I just think the Eagles are just going to make a couple of more plays. They have a little more experience. They're more older, a little bit more of a veteran edge to the team. The Bucs are one of the youngest teams in the league. 13 rookies and undrafted free agents on the roster, and I think that this will be a learning game for the Bucs going forward. I think they're going to learn a lot from this game, as to maybe how to win, how to play for a full 60 minutes against some top-notch competition. I mean, Minnesota's a good team, but they're 0-3. The Bears, they're 0-3, and they're 0-3 for a reason. Vikings have a lot of talent, so I look for them to get it turned around. But this is the first real big opponent that the Bucs have faced, this season. And, I'm looking for a good effort from offense and defense tomorrow night.
And I think this is our second biggest. A lot of people they disregard the Vikings. I don't blame them, because this is what the record is. But I still think that was a big win for the Bucs. Week 1, I thought we were going to lose. I didn't think we were going to win that game. The Vikings, I'm not going to disregard them. I think they've been very disrespected, but we got to stop. That defense hasn't played very well, but that offense has been pretty damn good. Kirk Cousins playing like a top 5 quarterback. They got weapons all around the board. And but Madison, except for him, he's been very disappointing. But that was a big win for the Bucks week 1. And this game, I think it's a big game. I compare it even playing with the 49ers. It's that type of game, and it's going to be a big challenge for Baker Mayfield. This is going to be the biggest challenge I think in his career since 2020 season in the playoffs.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the Vikings was a big game for a different reason, though. The Bucks were going into that game, and no one really knew what we were going to see. New quarterback in Baker Mayfield, new offensive coordinator in Dave Canales. The defense had been retooled a little bit. Todd Bowles was still running the defense, but there were some new players, and nobody really knew what we were going to get from the Bucks. Well, we found out pretty quick, and we liked what we saw after that game, and they were able to get an upset win on the road. I think the Vikings were favored by like 6 in that game to start the season. So I think that's why it was such a big game. It was just the fact that nobody knew what the Bucks were going to look like, and so many people were saying, "Oh, the Bucks will be lucky to win 2 games. Bucks will be lucky to win 3 games." And now that they're out of the gate 2-0, a lot of those people are having to, eat some crow and have a little bit of humble pie for dessert.
Yeah, especially someone with the first name Peter.
Yeah, and his last name would be King, maybe.
yeah, man. I think he needs to reevaluate getting older because sometimes it happens. I think he forgot that this team was just won the Super Bowl 3 years ago, and they lost some people. But if you really look at it, those people we lost were not contributing very well with the team last season. Leonard Fournette, he did not play good. Tom Brady. He'll still go down as greatest quarterback of all time, but he's not playing well, despite the stats he had. He played that in garbage time. That's why he got those good stats. And the players that we let go, they were holding the Bucks back, in my opinion. Donovan Smith, penalty after penalty as you see with the Chiefs. He lost a couple of games for the Bucks, in my opinion, yes, especially that Rams game the year prior. So, So those players we got rid of, I think we upgraded. We upgraded each position. We're an old team. And the players we plugged in are playing very well, like Ryan Neal and just all around the team. And Baker Mayfield, he's playing better than Tom Brady would if he came back this year.
Well, there's not very many quarterbacks right now that are playing better than Baker Mayfield. You'd be hard-pressed to find one. Jordan Love, maybe, in Green Bay. He's played very well and is proving the critics wrong about his ability. Kirk Cousins is playing very well, putting up some pretty good numbers. And then you got
yards.
Yeah, and then you got Baker Mayfield, who is 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, takes what the defense gives him, doesn't turn the ball over, has only been sacked 1 time, works well with Dave Canales and the offensive game plan, doesn't try to do too much, and that's the kind of quarterback that you need a lot of times in order to win the division and make a championship run.
And the biggest thing is, I think 2 big things of Baker. One, his biggest problem for most of his career was that fumbling. In Cleveland Browns, that was the main thing. Like Baker Mayfield fumbles the ball like 2 to 3 times each game. And he has not turned over the bar, fumbling or throwing an interception. He hasn't done it. And that is very big because that was Baker Mayfield's main problem for, like I said, most of his career. So turnovers are a big thing, and the Bucks can afford turnovers because they've been a very good team, forcing teams to get turnovers, to throw turnovers, but they've only scored 13 points within that, and so they gotta take advantage of each drive with the Eagles. That's what's going to be very key in this game. Secondly, Baker Mayfield, coming into the season, he was, he's only been with the team for 4 months. That's why I kind of figured like he was going to struggle. He hasn't been with the team for very long, and this is a brand new team. There's a couple of veterans there, but overall, Baker Mayfield's been here for 4 months, and it's impressive what he's been able to do. That Vikings game, I saw the second half. I was like, this looks like Baker Mayfield from 2020. So this team, I'm very confident. I haven't felt this confident since 2021 when we're making our way to Super Bowl. I'm not saying we're Super Bowl contenders, but this team is strong, and I'm very confident we can win the division this year.
There's one area of offense though that does concern me, and that is red zone efficiency. The Bucks are just 2 for 7 in the red zone this season, and that's 30th in the league. If they're going to win the division, pile up some wins, and even have any aspirations of making the playoffs, they have got to get 6 when they are in the red zone and not settle for 3. That's really the big fault that I have right now with the offense is you have to be better in the red zone. And for whatever reason, when they get in the red zone, it just seems like everybody just tightens up. And it's a totally different type of offense, and we see a totally different type of play sometimes than what we see when we're playing between the 20s. So I'm looking for some improvement in the red zone efficiency starting tomorrow against Philadelphia.
I think they need to start utilizing Cade Otton a little bit more. Cade Otton, he hasn't looked great, but I think the big key where he can really be a great asset to the team is that end zone. I feel like the red zone, I feel like that would be his niche. Because he has good hands. I just think his big attribute could be kind of like what Kyle Rudolph was with the Vikings. He had a big red zone threat. And I think they need to start utilizing Baker Mayfield's play action.
Well, we had the Brady Gronk combination. How about a Mayfield Otton combination when we get down there in the red zone?
Yeah, Cade Otton's he has solid hands. He's just not a super fast tight end. Right. But he's a big guy that can catch the ball. So I think they need to start utilizing him in the red zone. And I think we're kind of used to seeing Gronk. We're used to seeing that like crazy tight end that just bowls through everybody. But right now, really, I have to compare him to our former tight end, Cameron Brate. He reminds me a lot of him. He has good hands, but he just isn't fast. So he's more like a shortest yards type of tight end.
Right. I would agree with that. Yes.
And I gotta say, I was especially these past 2 weeks, man. I think the Bucks. I think they might have to look at replacing Carlton Davis. I know it's really early, but this has been a big problem. He gets injured or he plays very average. Like Jamal Dean, I was really happy to like him down. I've been impressed with him, but Carlton Davis has not been the guy that we paid for.
No, I would agree with that. We haven't gotten our money's worth with Davis. Of course, we still have a lot of season left to go, but the track record with him is not good. He tends to miss a lot of time. He tends to get his hands on a lot of balls, but can never bring them in. They don't add up to interceptions, and turnovers on the stat sheet. So, I think a guy to watch for the Bucks is that rookie from Rutgers, Christian Isaiah. He's got 2 picks already this year, and it would not surprise me if Davis continues to be hurt or just maybe continues to struggle, that Isaiah could get, a lot more playing time and they'll put a little more responsibility on him, even though he's just a rookie.
So you think they might slide him to that slot? And
they could. They could. I don't think he's ready for that yet. He still has a lot of learning to do. But what I've heard from a lot of the insiders there that are at Bucks practice and have watched him practice day in and day out, he is years ahead of where a lot of the rookies are at that age. He's a coach on the field. He coaches even some of the veterans. Hey, we got to make sure we're in this formation. Let's line up correctly.
That's rare.
Calling out plays, taking ownership, just trying to be that leader. That's what we got right now with Isaiah, and he's only going to get better. I mean, he has 3 games under his belt. I mean, by the end of the season, who knows where he'll end up? I mean, he could be one of the top rookies in the NFL if he keeps playing and improving at the pace that he's on right now.
And we're only through 2 weeks, and he already has 2 interceptions.
Yes.
Right, he's very close to our former safety, who is currently at the Jets. So it's very impressive what
Yeah,
he's able to
Jordan
do.
Whitehead. Yeah.
Jordan Whitehead. Yeah, I knew it started with Jordan. I forgot his last name though. But um, but yeah, it's very impressive. And that guy's a veteran. He's been around 4 or 5 years now.
Right.
And to be able to kind of motivate, kind of communicate with the veterans and be that leader, that's very rare. You don't see that for rookie because you're a veteran. Like let's say Levante David, for example, he's been around for over 10 years. And if you're listening to a rookie, then you usually have a lot of respect for the guy. So that shows you the amount of respect and skill this player has. And he's only in his rookie season.
Yeah.
So who knows the potential this guy has? It's pretty high, but who knows? It's shit. He could. This could be the start of maybe Charles Woodson type of player. So who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's hope it does end up that way, because that would really go a long way to helping this Buccaneers defense this season.
And we need it. Carlton Davis. I think we definitely. I don't mind the contract. I knew the situation because there wasn't too many options. And we needed to focus on defense, which we got our one guy, Kanzi. We needed a frontline guy, but I'm hoping Christian Eisen is developed enough later in the season that he can kind of slide in that spot. Carlton Davis, I'm just not impressed with. We need. This is an important season for the Bucs because the Todd Bowles, despite what everyone says, this is an important season for Todd Bowles because this is the first season he's fully in control because he was throwing the fire last season. I think it was kind of unfair with the hate and everything he's gotten because of last season. He didn't even pick his own staff. So this is an important season, but as far as we're looking, I feel pretty confident.
Yeah, I agree. I'm happy to be 2-0 and playing for the division lead tomorrow, playing a Super Bowl contender in the Eagles, and I'm just hoping that this will be a game, win or lose, that the Bucs can take another stepping stone and continue to improve on what they've accomplished already this season.
Exactly, and you know what? Even it's such a long wait to watch the Bucs tomorrow night, but I'm excited. This weekend's been awesome so far. Like today, the Saints lost. Packers made a comeback victory. Panthers are being Panthers actually did well. Actually, they look like they did better with Andy Dalton. To be honest, like he had 3 touchdowns and no picks. So that shows a lot. That shows the Panthers are. I think Bryce Young works out. They could be a dangerous team in the future. And the Falcons, they lost to the Lions. That was a good comeback around for them. But like I said, the division, I think Bucs are going to win it.
Well, it's there for the taking. That's no question. And we talked about this all offseason. There's just not, outside of New Orleans, there's just not a lot of talent in the division. Yeah, we got some prospects, and Bryce Young and Desmond Ridder in Atlanta at quarterback, and now I got Bijan Robinson over there at running back. But 1 or 2 guys aren't going to win you the division. You got to have a solid team on both sides of the ball, and Atlanta and Carolina do not have that. New Orleans does have it, but it's a matter of their health, and we're seeing cracks in that foundation already. So as long as the Bucs stay healthy and can pile up those wins, I think they're in a good spot.
And Desmond Riddler, I'm going to be honest, he's a guy I think is going to fade out. You know what I mean? Like I think it's that offense. I think the Falcons actually have a good team. But I think Desmond Riddler, you look at the replays, he misses guys wide open. Kyle Pitts could have had a couple of big games already. And the first round picks they've drafted the past 2 years, they're not even getting looked at. Desmond Riddler, he's going to be a guy, he reminds me of Brandon Weeden for Cleveland Browns. A guy that you thought could have a lot of potential, but this kind of guy that fades out after his first season. around that time. So I think Desmond Riddler is not going to be a guy we hear of 2 years from now. So I don't really, I'm not too concerned with the Falcons right now. They have a good team, but that quarterback's going to hold them back, I think. Despite them coming back, I think that was offense. I get a lot of credit to the offense and the defense.
Yeah, the Lions are the real deal. There's no question. Jared Goff, I think he's playing better than he did with the Rams. Whatever Campbell's doing there in Detroit is working out, well for Goff and the offense. And I think it's right now, if I was to pick, I'd say the Lions win that division. I think it might come down to the Lions and Green Bay, but I'd give the nod to Detroit right now.
Yeah, and I think one or two reasons why Jared Goff's doing better. I think he's got a head coach more connected with him. Because I don't know, I never really felt Sean McVay and Jared Goff were super connected relationship-wise. Because you look at the season, Sean Payton didn't draft Jared Goff. He came the year after. I'm trying to think of that. Because Sean Payton came in 2017. Goff was drafted the year before, so he never picked Jared Goff. And they've struggled throughout. Like, Jared Goff did good because they had that solid defense and that offense, but I think Jared Goff, he has someone that actually believes in him. Dan Campbell, they have a really good relationship, and Jared Goff has more weapons, I think. And how the Lions are built, they have a lot more energy in the locker room, and I think that's important. Like, you look at the Bucs, they have a similar energy level as well. Like Baker Mayfield, I think he brings out the best of everybody. Even Todd Bowles, he acts kind of robotic at times. He yelled in the locker room. He was getting pumped up, and you haven't seen it from Todd Bowles. So I think the energy with the players in that locker room is very important.
No, it is. It is, and you need a couple of players to, kind of be the leader of that and transcend that energy and give off that energy. And Baker does that. For the Bucs, not only in the locker room but also a very emotional player on the field, and that just rubs off on the players, gets them excited and ready to go out there for the next series.
Like, for example, Brian Murphy, he's like, put your weight up after you get that first down.
Yes. Yeah, need to put on a little bit of weight there, boy.
Baker Mayfield, that's what I love about him. He's very gritty, and he kind of reminds me of Brett Favre, just a little bit more trash talk. Baker Mayfield is an exciting player to watch.
Absolutely.
But so you picked the Eagles and I picked the Bucs to win. So that's
right.
more. I'm not saying it's more logical, but it's my optimistic. I have a hard time cheering. I have a hard time picking our team over the Bucs because this team, I haven't been this exciting since I think it was the first season I became a Buck, which was back in 2021, and that was the last year we really made a Super Bowl run. So I feel that type of energy. And this season is going to be exciting. And this game, it's probably going to be one of the better Monday night games.
Yeah, I agree. It has the potential to be really good. I think it's going to be a close game. Going to be back and forth, and I just think Philly comes out on top at the end.
Let's we just got to pray that doesn't happen because the Eagles fans are going to be ruthless.
Right. I would love to be wrong.
Oh yeah. I still the Eagles fans though, man. It's those fans. I don't understand. I try to understand like how they keep doing this, like in the Super Bowl win, but they do celebrate. Some people might go drinking, go to Waffle House, like Trevor Lawrence probably would do. But the Eagles, their fans, they legit. This is not even slightly joking. They eat horse shit and they climb up poles. Like what did they take before? What did they take during the game to do that? I don't understand. It's incomprehensible to me.
Yeah. There's no words to describe it.
No, like I said, not they're the number one worst team. There's annoying fan bases like the Steelers and Patriots, but the Eagles fans, you just don't like them. Just the
Right.
arrogance and kind of like just it's kind of how they act. It's very disrespectful, and I just don't prefer it.
Right. I agree.
But hope you guys enjoy this video. Like and subscribe, and hope you all buck that.